Good evening, everyone. My name is Venerable Radha. I'm from Malaysia. I've been a monk for about 7 years now. And I am not a natural meditator. So I've gone through a lot of the difficulties that you have gone through. And I'm here to share with you stuff that I've learned and found useful. Next to me is Venerable Radha, the youngest monk in the monastery. He's, though the youngest, naturally talented. As you can see, he can sit very peacefully, not like me. Okay, so meditation, what is it? The way I understand meditation, it's part of the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha taught something called the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path is a path that leads to the end of suffering. That's the promise. And within the Eightfold Path, the last of the eighth item is right meditation, right stillness, as Ajahn calls it. It is apparently at that stage when you get right stillness that you have perfect mental clarity. You can see how the world works. You can see how life comes about, why life continues, why we suffer. And then when you can understand the mechanics of life, you can choose not to play. It's almost like you're stuck in a game of Monopoly and you keep rolling the dice and you go past jail, you pass go, you collect opportunity, you collect chance, and you go past Pall Mall again, you go past Mayfair again, and you go, okay. And then after maybe 2 hours or 3 hours, you figure nobody's winning and nobody's losing, and you're still stuck in the game and you're still playing. And it starts getting boring. What do? You have to sort of get everybody else to agree, can we now stop? Right? But here's the Buddha saying, if you could see what is making you roll the dice again, moving your piece another 5 steps, picking up another opportunity card or chance card, and if you could say, okay, I quit, I don't want to play anymore, then your suffering ends, as it were. So roughly speaking, that's what the Buddha was trying to say. If you can understand how it works, why it pushes you, then you can also quit. So anyway, so that's the big picture where meditation sits. To get there, he had the preceding 7 items on his list. And those 7 items includes something called right speech, right actions, right livelihood. And these are traditionally classified as virtue items, things to do with good behavior, things to do with good ethics. And the reason being that if you have good ethics, chances are you will not fall in trouble with the law, you will not fall in trouble with your friends, you will not fall in trouble with your employees. You will have a very smooth sailing life. And the reason this precedes meditation is because, well, if your life is smooth sailing, of course, your mind is at peace, you're not troubled, you can go into stillness easily and you gain your clarity. 2 steps before that, the Buddha then said, okay, you should have something called right view. We will speak a bit more about this, but roughly what it says is this. How we experience life very much depends on how we understand life. Somebody gives you a meal, for example. If you think, I deserve better, then that meal will not taste very good. If somebody gave you the same meal and say, oh, such a nice person, thank you for that meal, same food, would actually taste good. Just because you perceive and you understand that meal differently. So, the Buddha says, okay, if you can see the world and understand it in a realistic, useful way, then chances are you will react to the world in a useful way, in a way that is not troublesome to yourself. Okay. Some of the others are a bit harder to understand, especially if you haven't been in the Buddhist circles, but just focusing on these few. For many people, Buddhism appears to be a very technical religion. There's a lot of lists, there's a lot of you do this, you do that, and there's a lot of this causes this causes that causes this. And in the beginning, with my background in engineering and science, I thought that was the solution to meditation, as in, if you go and figure out the procedures, you follow the steps, you do them diligently, step 1 do this, step 2 do this. And I tried. It gave me a big headache. It turns out that's not the way to do meditation, and my good fortune, I came to Bodhi Jhana, came across Ajahn Brahm and learned the way he teaches meditation. And the way he teaches meditation is this. I listen very closely to what he says, and every once in a while I will catch something that piques the ear, and it's like, that didn't quite make sense. What did Ajahn just say? One of the things that Ajahn says, meditation is not about skill, not about thinking your way through, not about method. It's more an emotional thing. I was like, are you sure? And this comes from a person who studied theoretical physics. What do you mean meditation comes from, or it's more an emotional thing than an intellectual, cerebral thing? And now I've begun to understand it, so appreciate it so much. I need to share this with you. So, for example, let's say there was a restaurant opening in town, a 5-star restaurant, and they thought, we want your opinion, we want to post your review online, honest review about our restaurant, our food, our service, and all that. And we pride ourselves to be a 5-star restaurant, and we want to be in that market. And they say, all right, you're the chosen one, we're giving you a free voucher, come and have a meal on us. And because we want you to enjoy the food, we'll give you a private dining cubicle. You don't have to listen to all the noise in the kitchen and all the noise in the main hall. All you have to do, come, eat the meal, and fill up a review. Maybe talk to the chef to understand what your feedback was, right? Then you turn up at the appointed time, and then you discover, actually 2 of us who have to sit at this table, 4-course meal, and this person sitting on the other side happens to be my ex-boss, my ex-supervisor, somebody I just quarreled with, my ex-partner, basically your enemy, somebody whom you don't like. And then soup comes along, and before you can finish the soup, chances are you'd say, actually I have an appointment at this hour, I need to go. I don't, I will miss the meal, right? If you had to sit with somebody in an enclosed cubicle and have a 4-course meal, it will feel very weird to sit with somebody you don't like and have that meal, even if it came from a chef who claims to deliver a 5-star experience. What if, okay, change the scenario. You arrive at the restaurant and the maitre d', the head waiter or head waitress, invites you in, sits you down, and sits opposite you and tells you, okay, the next dish is the soup. And the soup comes along, this is the onion soup, and then tells you what the ingredients are, what the chef did to it. And then as you pick up the spoon, oh no, you have to pick up the soup spoon, not your other spoons. Oh, and with your right hand, not your left hand. And then as you pick up the soup spoon, your right hand, scoop it away from you, not towards yourself, so that you don't spill on. Now, how do you think you will enjoy that meal? Maybe a little better than the first case, right? But still, it's not a very enjoyable meal. Now what if, third scenario, this restaurant tells you, we are giving you 2 vouchers, please call somebody, a friend, and come and taste the meal together. We expect both of you to give us a review and feedback. And you find your best friend, and your best friend comes with you, sit together in this little private cubicle, 5-star food, 5-star service. Wouldn't that be the best meal that you've had in a long, long time? And chances are, even when it's closing time, you are still sitting together, telling stories, and are not quite ready to go home, right? What's the significance of this story? The story is that this idea of relationship, this idea of whether you feel safe and comfortable in a space affects your experience of that meal. And it is the same when you sit down for meditation. If you sat down and in your mind, the image is somebody you just had a quarrel with, somebody you don't like, and this image keeps sticking in the head, it's actually quite hard to meditate. And quite hard to, the mind would try to run away from that cubicle, rather not be there. And that's how it will look for a fantasy, look for a past thought, look for TikTok on a phone, look for something else other than being in this space. Not fun at all, right? Okay, how about if we sat in front of this head waiter who told you how to use a soup spoon? It's like somebody who sat there and says, well, now you look at your breath, notice how it goes in, experience it right at the tip of the nose, not anywhere else. Count to 4. Again, that meditation experience is there, right? Now if you sat there and you say, oh, I'm sitting with my best friend. I could sit here for ages. Now, what if you went back to that cubicle again, you get a free voucher, and then now you sit down, and they put a computer screen in front of you, an AI-generated avatar of yourself looks exactly like you, sounds exactly like you, speaks exactly like you, about the same thing with the same kind of views. Would you enjoy your meal? So, sometimes, so the question then is, will you actually enjoy your own company? If you do, meditation becomes easy. If you don't, your mind wants to go elsewhere, right? Okay, so now here we are in Jhana group. We're sitting in a nice hall, a dim room, cozy and all. There's the company around you feel like safe, feel like warm, approachable, feel like you can settle down and relax. If you are feeling very cozy and comfortable and relaxed, then there's a good chance your mind will also feel comfortable and relaxed in this space. If you're feeling quite agitated and you don't like the person sitting next to you and you think it's too warm, it's too cold, it's too bright, it's too dark, then the mind has a lot of things to fix and a lot of things to complain about. Whereas if you were sitting in that same cubicle with your best friend, even after you've done all the catching up, all the stories, they're just sitting there smiling at each other, just knowing such good company just to be in this space with this friend, right? So okay, so that's this idea of relationship with yourself, relationship with the surrounding, relationship with the thing you're watching. If you're watching, let's say, the soup that we were talking about, and you started forming thoughts that if you came in a bad mood, for example, soup again, why do I have to have soup again? Even though it's good soup, it won't taste good. If you went there and you said, and it's a very light tasting onion soup, and you had all the time in the world to look for the flavor, that's the onion, that's the salt, and you tease every bit of flavor out, that same bowl of soup or plate of soup can take you 20 minutes and you're still tasting every little flavor. So the perception of what is given to you, if you think it's 5-star, you will take your time to enjoy it. If you think it's McDonald's soup or something, then you will just gulp it down. Okay, what's next? And then you get impatient and you start looking for something else. So relationships, it's central to the way Ajahn Brahm teaches meditation. Okay. Now, I want to try something different. I will introduce 2 concepts during this evening. The second concept is this idea of not stillness, of quiet silence. This experience came when I first joined the monastery. When we all join the monastery, we all do duties for the monks. We cook in the kitchen, drive the monks for their dental appointments, drive Ajahn Brahm to Nola Mara and whatever. And it's very weird when you know Ajahn Brahm from Nola Mara. He sits down, you come in front of him, you can chat with him and he will talk to you, right? But with us Anagarikas, he sits in the car and you drive and you say, Ajahn, how are you? And after a point, Ajahn just holds that silence. He doesn't feel the need to fill up that space. For most of us, that silence feels awkward. And it's socially awkward. That's how we are conditioned. Quite often when your friend pauses and holds a silence, somebody else will fill up that space with words. Yeah? Idea then is, how do we make this silence not feel so awkward, but allow ourselves to feel at home in that silence? And again, the answer is in this thing called the relationship or the emotional factor. I imagine most of you, whether you have had a child before or whether you have pets, a cat or a dog or a puppy or something, and the most precious moments that you can recall will most likely be a time when this being, this creature, feels totally safe with you, lies in your lap or lies in your arms, able to relax, let go, put down the defenses, and trust you completely. And those are precious moments. This being trusts you completely, just lying there, totally relaxed. And in those moments, you really don't want to shake the puppy or disturb the cat. You just want the cat to stay there. And if you can feel that, then the silence, the quiet, actually feels nice. So I invite you, let's go straight into it now. Try. Sit comfortably. If you can, picture yourself in a nice, cozy location, knowing that practically everyone who bothers to meditate are all good people. So you're in a very safe space. Everyone around here have no intention to harm you. And we can reciprocate by also lowering our own defenses, saying, I trust all of you too. And in that trust, the silence doesn't feel so awkward. Still, after a few seconds, because the mind is not used to the silence yet, it might want to fill the space with something. And we typically do this simple exercise of relaxing the body part by part. It's not stillness for the mind, but it's leading towards that. The idea being that to make ourselves, to allow ourselves to be even more relaxed, more at home in this space, you go look for all the tension that is in the body, and then gently calm them. and release them. You might realize that because the mind is quiet, you can actually feel a lot of sensations in the body. That we didn't notice before. The bits of tension, bits of tiredness. Let's start at a place where we hold quite a fair bit of tension. The abdominal area. Some of you may have just eaten. Some may be earlier. But if you look around the muscles that wrap around our stomach, starting with the six-pack in front, imagine if you were to allow them to loosen. To let your guts hang out, as it were. And then you might discover that you also need to let go of the muscles at the back, the lumbar muscles. Together, so that it doesn't pull at the front or the back. And you allow the spine to just stay upright with the least possible effort. When you do that, you might notice that your breathing has actually become easier. Side point that I will point out to you now. On the one hand, there are very few thoughts in your head. There are no words. You're actually silent. On the other hand, there's actually a lot to observe. even though it's just breath going in, breath coming out, every breath is a little different. Now, as you were saying earlier about relationships, what if we put a little bit of kindness into this observation? Imagine this abdominal area, the stomach, was like a little cat or a little puppy. And we care for this little creature to bits. Such that every breath that you pull in, it's just like you're caressing, stroking this little cat. And as you picture that experience, you might also allow a bit of warm feeling to come up in your own heart. And you can also allow this process to self-reinforce as you breathe with a kindness, massaging the abdomen, the breath feels good. Feels quite pleasant. Now, if you like, you can try and spread this same feeling further up into the upper torso, the muscles around the rib cage, relax them. Caress them. Let them relax. Let them know that they're in a safe, cozy place. Your breathing becomes even easier. If you have the same experience as I, now there's a big contrast between the pleasant sensations in the body, the abdominal, torso, upper torso area, versus the tension in the neck and shoulders. So even as you breathe in and out, you might feel your shoulders shifting ever so slightly. Allow those movements to gently massage any tight spots. And not just the intellectual, mechanical actions, but also this warm, heartfelt, caring for our shoulders and our neck. Here's a little trick. Scientifically speaking, the breath goes through the nose, into the nostrils, down the tubes, and goes into the lungs, and then back out again. But the experience of it, where does the breath go? You can feel the breath practically anywhere, everywhere above your hips. Reason being, for the air to go into the lungs need to expand, the diaphragm needs to pull down, the shoulders need to rise. And it's all these little movements that tell you the breath is moving. And this movement of the breath connects your awareness to all your body parts. Now, if you can imagine, right, that the breath is a very efficient transporter of kindness and care. Then you can send kindness to wherever in the body. If you feel an ache or a pain or a tension, it feels that you can breathe through those parts of the body, bringing kindness and tenderness. If you like, you can slowly bring your attention further up. The base of the head, at the top of the neck. You might tilt your head left and right, front to back, just to check if there's tightness. And then breathe through those areas. Lightly massaging. Any knots? Or tightness? Perhaps now we move to the jaw muscles. This muscle is one of those armor that we put on And we tighten, clench our jaw in times of tension. You can loosen the jaw muscles. Reminding ourselves we're in a very safe and cozy place. Now let's feel our eyes, feel our eyeballs. See if you spot any tension. You can relax them, rotate them a bit, loosen them. One more step up. The forehead and the eyebrows. A lot of frowning muscles here. For some of us, these muscles work too hard. We allow them to relax, to put their guard down and rest. Some of these muscles feels like we have clenched them for so long, they've forgotten how to let go. But just like if you're taking care of a friend who's upset, you don't rush the person. You have lots of patience and kindness. Giving them plenty of time. The next step is a rather big one. This area that's behind the forehead, behind the eyeballs. There are no muscles here. But if you've been having to use a lot of brain power in your day, you might still find tiredness or a dark cloud in this space. Perhaps we can invite our good friend back, the breath, to bring in some fresh air into this space. Again, we often squeeze and scrunch our brains to the extent we forget how to let go. And that when we let go, just like that silence just now, initially it feels awkward. But you know that relaxing the brain is a healthy thing to do. So you stay with kindness, letting the breath gently sweep through. In, out. Okay, now at this point, you might find that the mind is starting to rebel, starting to get tired of this practice. So, perhaps it's time that we be kind to the one that is doing all the work. Who is this one that's doing all the work? The one that is directing the kindness around. The one that's paying attention to the abdomen, the torso, the neck, the shoulders. This guy. For most of us, this guy seems seated where your eyeballs are. Perhaps it's time for this mind to also have a share of the kindness. And how do we do that? We let the mind rest gently on the breath, as if floating on the breath. As you breathe in and out, this mind just relaxes. Also feeling quite at home, quite safe. Very comfortable. Okay. If your body is feeling sore and you need to get up and stretch, please go ahead. I want to point out a few things. Sorry, before that, if you want to stay inside and continue meditating, please go ahead too. You don't have to come out. I know that there's a mix of beginners and experienced meditators in this group. So if you want to stay inside, please go ahead. Enjoy. But here's what I want to point out to you. I don't know, especially for the beginners, was this one of the quietest times you've ever experienced in your mind space? Fully awake, but no words. And quite often we wonder, how come we can't do this when we try and meditate? And the explanation that Ajahn Brahm gives is that the kindness that you were feeling just now is the glue that attracts the attention, your mind, to the things that you were watching, whether it was your stomach or your breath or your mind or your jaw muscles or your eyeballs. The kindness, that connection, it's like sitting with a friend in that 5-star restaurant. You want to be there. And you don't have to speak. You're with a friend. Another way to think about it, this task of kindness has crowded out your thoughts. There wasn't space for words to come in. And my guess is you actually feel more refreshed, even though it felt like you have done a bit of work in the last half an hour, the mind is brighter. What else is interesting? There's little craving, there's little anger. You're at peace, and you're contented. And you're happy to leave the silence be. Okay, I'm undecided, so I'm going to ask you for an opinion. It's 8:45. I've got two options. One, if you're very tired, we can stop here, and those who want to continue meditating can sit quietly. Or two, you can come out for a while and we'll have a Q&A and some discussions, and perhaps go back in again one more time, depending on how tired you are. Option one or option two? Two. Option two? We've got one vote for option two. All right, okay, let's come out then. And enjoy a few breaths and then come out. And then stretch if you want, use the toilet if you want. Anyone has any comments or questions?
It's very good. Thank you very much.
Very good. I don't know. I mean, okay, so I'm meeting a lot of you for the first time. I don't know your names, but I'm happy to make this whole weekend quite informal, as in ask any question anytime. Idea being that you're the customer. I'm here to hopefully be your tour guide inward and give you an experience. I guess my job is to make you a meditation addict at some point. Get you to enjoy it enough that you keep looking for it. Many people, like Prem over there behind the door, he's what Ajahn Brahm might call a meditation junkie. Having found that, yeah, I suppose that's how I got into this as well. It was like, I always thought I was a Buddhist even when I was a teenager. Nobody in my family was a Buddhist. And then when I got married, I had been married before, we decided, let's go look for a Buddhist place and learn meditation. And I was never a natural meditator. Struggled. There was one time we saw Ajahn Brahm conduct a meditation retreat in KL. And I thought, oh, that's nice. Let's go sign up for one. But Ajahn Brahm only does one retreat in Malaysia every year around the time of Christmas. And every time it's fully booked. So we thought, okay, let's go and look for another center. Perhaps I can try a different teacher, a different place that's not so crowded. And so we went. Lo and behold, my wife found a place not so far away from where I lived, a 14-day retreat. And that was the first retreat I ever attended. And I came back with a headache. That obviously, that other school taught a very structured meditation method. You have to do this, you have to watch your mind, you have to do, and then it's 1 hour sit, 1 hour walk, 1 hour sit, 1 hour walk, then it's lunch, then it's 1 hour sit, 1 hour walk. Quite stressful. My hope for you this weekend is the complete opposite. As you had heard Nolia say, this is your time, you have cleared 48 hours to be here. I hope you do enjoy it, find it enjoyable, and if you don't, complain. The reason why I say that is because we are a relatively small group. Jhana Grove normally, when Ajahn Brahm or any other big teachers are here, 60 people packed to the brim. But this weekend, we have a lot more shoulder space, elbow space, a lot more knee space. And I am very flexible. I have an idea of what I'm going to talk about. But learning from Ajahn Brahm, my job is to respond to your needs. So if you are happy to go along, I'll go with the program I have. If you have questions, or you find what I'm thinking of too difficult or too easy, let me know. I will modify along the way. You may also have seen in the Q&A, in the program, the way I've envisioned this weekend, such that we only have a start time for every program. There's no end time until the next item comes up, or until meal time comes up. So, just like what we just did, I'm happy for you to sit for as long as you want, or as short as you want. Idea being, if you're going to enjoy a hobby, hopefully you don't have to struggle through it and you're not forced through it. If you are forced to do something, like when I was forced to learn the piano when I was young, I didn't quite enjoy it. They're doing exam pieces all the time. And then one day the piano teacher told me, okay, I only want distinction students for the 8th grade, so we're taking your sister. And from that day onwards, I started enjoying playing the piano. So same thing for all of you. I don't want you to have a negative experience out of this weekend. If your knees are aching and it's burning hot, please stand up, relieve your pain. Don't try and struggle through it and then say, oh, that weekend was horrible. That shouldn't be the outcome. The outcome is, oh, that was a really wonderful weekend. I was really relaxed. I came out very bright. That's the hope. Okay? So, and as you know, this is the first time I'm teaching a retreat here in Jhana Grove, so any and all feedback are welcome. I have been teaching at the Carnet prison, not so far, 6 kilometers away from here, prior to this, and it's typically a much smaller group of 10 people or so, 15, 16 at the max. So I'm used to having discussions, and you're welcome to ask questions or make a point or whatever. Okay? All right, so good. As I was saying, what we just did there demonstrated a few things. One, silence is an acquired taste. It's not something we are brought up with in society. When you're with people and there is silence, somehow we just have to fill up space with words. And we do the same thing between our ears. Then you come to a place like this and you realize actually silence is not that awkward, it's not that uncomfortable. You can learn to sit with it. Don't have to rush through it. It's actually quite nice. The second thing, this thing about kindness, like I was saying, Ajahn Brahm calls it the glue, the kindness, the happiness. Initially, meditation tastes like green tea. If you like strong coffees and you like your vodka lime, or if you like your meditation just tastes like bland green tea with not a lot of flavor, right? But there are people who would pay a lot of money for good green tea. If you have learned how to appreciate its flavor, even though very subtle. And meditation is a bit like that. There are people like Ajahn Brahm who would much rather sit in his cave than to come out and talk to the rest of us. And you wonder what it's about. So here's Ajahn Brahm who says, okay, meditative bliss is better than all worldly pleasures. All worldly pleasures as in including sex. And you're wondering, is that possible? And then you start reading the suttas and you start listening to Ajahn Brahm more. And he says, it's not a pleasure to do with your 5 senses. If it's to do with what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you smell, or even what you touch, if it's to do with that, those are gross stuff in comparison to what you actually feel in a meditative bliss. Then you start wondering, what is this meditative bliss? For example, if you saw, I don't know, if you like love stories in movies or something, they go through all the boy meets girl, boy fights with girl, family intervenes, circumstances change, and they struggle. And eventually, boy, girl gets together and ride off into the sunset, happily ever after, and then you get that elated feeling, right? Those feelings that you feel throughout the show, the angst and the anger, the bad actors and the happiness for the hero and heroine. Question, do you perceive those feelings as real or fake? If you saw a movie and you felt those strong feelings, is that feeling real or fake? It's fake because it was artificially generated by actors and actresses and the storyteller who wrote the script. It's real because you actually felt it in your heart. Your pulse went up and down, your endorphins went up and down. So then you ask yourself, okay, if emotions and your feelings and your sense of bliss and joy can be manipulated by a film, can it be manipulated by your own film, your own movie? Obviously can, right? It's the same mechanism. What you see out there, you watch a movie, you create, it transfers a meaning into your mind, and that meaning generates those feelings. And that mechanism is not on the screen, the mechanism is in here, somewhere. So now, if you went around your day, always in the good guy fighting with bad guy and the bad actor trying to obstruct this and the mother-in-law tries to obstruct that, and if that's your experience of your day or your perception of your day, then obviously you're stuck in the fighting part of the struggling scene in that movie. But if you perceive your day as riding off into the sunset, having your picnic on the beach, then your experience is different, your emotions are different. And you ask yourself, is this a real emotion or a fake emotion? And obviously, it's affecting you. And you can have good days or bad days just by how you perceive your experience. Some people, you get a speeding ticket and you curse and swear, and you have you make references to the policeman and whatever. On some other people, okay, yeah, whatever. You pay the fine and you carry on with life. And you perhaps see a positive side to it and say, when the policeman stopped me, there was this nice cafe facing the vineyard, and we went there, and it was such a nice afternoon. And your afternoon changes. And you might say, we should thank the policeman for putting a stop there. So what I'm suggesting then is, when we sit down and even before you go into your meditation, if you perceive, here I am, going back into my cozy home, my little corner, with my little pet cat, who loves me unconditionally, then I can enjoy that hour, or half hour. If I tell myself, the doctor says I must meditate every day, then your half hour is going to be challenging, right? So what precedes the time you sit down makes a difference. How you perceive the environment that you're going to sit down in makes a difference. So let's say now you're feeling nice, warm, cozy, in a very happy place. You can imagine yourself, whatever your favorite place is, whether it's by the beach, watching the sunset, or somewhere in Kings Park by the Swan River, or on a little cushion here in Jhana Grove. If you perceive the space as beautiful, you automatically want to be here. The mind automatically wants to be here. And if you perceive this to be a nice place, there's nothing that you need to fix. You don't need to have any arguments. It's just nice. I would like to reacquaint you again with a very good friend, well, soon to be your good friend, the breath. Imagine as you breathe in and out, as you experience that breath, imagine this breath was actually another person or another being. And you know how if you had a pet cat or a pet dog lying on your lap, you can tell what kind of mood, what state of well-being that cat is in, just by how it's breathing. A tired breath feels different from a rested breath. An upset breath or a depressed breath has a unique feel that you can identify. And it's not that any of it is bad. What you're feeling now is what Ajahn Brahm calls the fruits of old karma. This is the result of historical action. And I say that not because I want you to blame or find the culprit who caused these things, but rather to see where care is needed and where you can offer some tender, loving kindness. if you came across a good friend who trusts you and they tell you about their troubles, one of the simplest and kindest thing you can do is just to sit and listen. Sometimes what you hear might be disturbing, and you might want to turn away. And when that happens, the mind doesn't want to stick with it. At other times, if you recognize this to be a close and dear friend, you might brave yourself and hear the whole story. But in a non-judgmental way, in a very accepting way. And the details of the story is in the details of the breath. If you find yourself tensing up anywhere through any form of discomfort, let the breath also take part in soothing the situation. It's interesting that this kind and patient listening can allow some very old stresses and old tiredness to come out from the woodwork. Okay, it's now 9:15, getting a bit late. Then again, some of you are not yet sleepy, some of you are tired. I will now take my leave, and you can either retire or sit as you wish. Make this place your own for the weekend. Get to know silence. Get to know breath. Tomorrow morning, I've scheduled a sit at 5:30. Optional. If you're tired, please sleep in. If you're game for an early morning sit, I'll meet you back here.